First off, I don't do presentations. I do explorations and journeys of discovery. You have knowledge, and if you approach an employer and say, I have something to contribute, I have specialized knowledge, and you value yourself, you take yourself out of the surplus and you put yourself into a commodity. You're actually hiring yourself out as a consultant with a lot of benefits because you're working for a company. And as I went down that list, it got to something that said maintaining balance. And Charlotte and I were talking about balance at the previous meeting, and she wanted to know, being an entrepreneur and being fully engaged, wearing all the hats and 24/7 and trying to manage all the other aspects of your life, can you achieve balance? And I answered quickly, I don't think so as an entrepreneur. And that question sort of stuck with me, and I've been poking it and poking it and poking it. And in this book it said, balance is a strategy. If you have a mission, that's essentially what you want to have happen. If you're going to open up a dry cleaning store or a catering service, that's your mission. Your vision, what's it going to look like? Dry cleaning store may have special features. It may have a drive-through, so that's the way the thing looks. You think that goals would come next, but they're not. You have to look at the external and internal strengths and weaknesses. It's called the SWOT analysis. And when you examine internally your strengths and weaknesses, then you look at the external forces. From there, you can see what goals you need to set to accomplish your vision and mission. And from those goals, then you start to come up with a strategy, which is sort of a game plan. If you think about, okay, we mentioned George and George, I'll mention another George, George Foreman, a massive heavyweight champion who destroyed everybody he came up against. And here we had Muhammad Ali coming out of losing his title after being stripped of his title and not boxing for a few years. And he took on George Foreman after Foreman had defeated Joe Frazier and a bunch of other very, very powerful fighters. Foreman was a monster. He would knock people literally senseless. And here you had Muhammad Ali going into the ring. Well, Muhammad Ali is a very smart man. And he looked at Foreman and he said, what's my mission here? I want to regain the heavyweight title. That's my mission. What's my vision? My vision is going to be, I'm going to be standing over George Foreman. He's going to be flat on the ground. I'm going to be raising my hands as the champion. And he said, okay, what are the strengths and weaknesses? And he analyzed both the external, the where he'd be boxing. He added this all in, and then he had some goals. He set goals from that. And his goals were to put himself in a position where he would understand his opponent and start to train for this fight. His strategy developed from the strengths and the weaknesses of both the external and internal. And his strategy was something called rope-a-dope. Remember that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He got in that ring, and my heart was pounding. This guy that I really admired, I really loved. He had the fastest reflexes in boxing, but there was Foreman, and Foreman was mean, and Foreman was angry, and he wanted to hurt people. And there was my little Muhammad Ali in there, and I was having kittens. Well, the bell rings, and you would expect, with the speed, the hand speed, and everything else, for Muhammad to come out and start boxing with him. He lays back on the rope, and he says, come on, take your best shot. And Foreman did. He pounded him for 8 rounds. But what he didn't realize, Muhammad's strategy was to take all the punishment that he could provide, absorb it. And in his training, his goals were, he had people hit him in the head, people hit him in the body so that he could respond and absorb this, and he would finally tire Foreman out, which he did. And he looked at him and he said, George, is that all you got? And George knew it, and he had won the fight there. So, the strategy, so think about it. You have your, as a business, if you are an employer, you should be thinking about the strategies of your employees, because if you want to get the best out of them, their work has to have meaning, and it has to be complex, it has to be challenging, it has to be autonomous, they have to have a stake in it, and there has to be a tangible connection between reward and benefit. That makes meaningful work, and if you can see strategies for an employee, then you can turn it and see it as an employer. So in looking at this year, and that's sort of going to tail end and give you the takeaway here, you got the first quarter of this year over. Are you going to play for a win? Or are you going to play defense? Or are you going to play just praying that you don't lose and go out of business? And it's always stronger, it's always more powerful, it's always, you have more control of the outcome if you play for the win. I mean, who gets married and gets divorced? Who opens a Broadway play to close on opening night? Yeah, you want to be successful.